Hi everyone, this is Brooke Akins, and on behalf of Q1 Productions, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be looking at the impact of the changes to the EU MDR and the Chinese GCP and the effect that those changes are having on global device registrations. We're very lucky to have Mr. Gert Bos, who's the Executive Director and Partner at QServe Group, as well as his colleague Sholi Go, who is the Junior Consultant at QServe Group with us today, and they're going to be providing a clinical comparison of the EU MDR and the Chinese GCP. At this time, it's my honor to hand it over to our presenters, again, Gert Bos and Sholi Go. Gert and Sholi, good afternoon to you and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Brooke, for your kind introduction and for inviting us to speak. As a matter of fact, you just mentioned that we're writing quite a lot of blogs, and I think from writing and comparing some of the blogs we wrote separately on Europe and on China, we came into this mode of thinking that there's more likeness between these two regulatory regimes and where they're heading than we had anticipated. And that's basically the thought process, and we'd like to guide you through our thought and our thinking process of that throughout today's webinar. And with that, we'll go through a number of topics, a bit broader, because we view that elements of change are broader, but a lot of the changes that are happening at this moment are relating to the clinical evaluation and the clinical truth and value that you have. And we'll cover that under the product life cycle perspective, where basically a lot of the changes, whether they are called clinical or not in a regulatory perspective, are focusing on the clinical evidence. And with that, we come to kind of a trend analysis where the examples of China and Europe are just examples, because we believe that this trend in thinking of regulatory authorities is structural in that sense. Second and third part, we zoom in on clinical evaluation, clinical trial requirements in Europe and in China, and in the end we come into some of the ramifications and implications, and after that there will be some time for questions. And what we'll do, we'll structure this by going through each of the topics, a bit on Europe and a bit on China, and so we're taking turns throughout the presentations. If we move on and look at the life cycle perspective of conceptually thinking about a device, design and verifications and validations until first market approval, and then once a product is in the market, you see, of course, that the regulations are quite similar and the thinking of authorities is quite similar across the globe. But if we look at what has been changing, what is changing, we see that all of these elements at this moment are up for debate in the European medical device regulatory overhaul in the MDR. On the other hand, more into bits and pieces, we see that the legislation in China is moving right into the same directions, and anything that has a nice color, green and orange, is what has changed in China over the last 2 years. There's more detail to it, but you can see that already quite a lot of the things that are in the European medical device regulatory framework moving for the next version is at this moment under evaluation and has been changed. So green is what we will not be touching, or it should be relating to the clinical. What we have in orange, so regulatory strategy as a start, quality management relating also to clinical validation, clinical studies, and post-market clinical follow-up are the topics that we want to focus on during today's presentation.
On behalf of Q1 Productions, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you'd like to see the full webinar presentation, please follow this link to add it to your cart. If you have any questions or need further assistance, please contact us at webinars@q1productions.com. Thank you.